Good morning, everybody. Today is Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018. It's MMA Junkie Radio's pre-show, the show before the show. I am Goes. To my left is MMA Junkie Radio's fight analyst Dan Tom, and back in New York is producer Danny.
Hi.
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 You guys are very lucky that today
yes.
we have one guest, and it's Daniel Cormier, because we just had a shit show this morning. All kinds of technical problems.
The other reason they're very lucky is the fact that we even have a show right now.
Yeah.
Because we almost didn't. And I apologize for the audio quality, but the only way we're able to connect them is a completely different way. So if you guys are hearing it and going, why does it sound different today? It's because of that.
Danny, why would you apologize
no
for
show.
the audio quality? They would never complain about anything.
I apologize for being me.
That was a genuine laugh.
No. You sounded like a young Skeletor.
Yes.
What's everybody up to today?
You know, Facebook has a funny way of doing its reminders very topically, but at least for me, I don't know anybody else out there, but it's always like if you crashed your car, for example, it'll be like, hey, remember when you had this new car? Like that'll be your Facebook reminder, like 7 years ago today or 5 years ago today, but it'll always be something kind of topical or like, I don't remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Right now I'm getting a bunch on like vacation when I'm like very vacation deprived. I was like, no, I don't need to be seeing my vacation post from 7 years ago.
I have a friend who is losing his hair, or has been losing his hair for a while.
Facebook reminds him?
But he just posted something, a pic of...
Remember when you had hair?
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
From a long time ago. And he was losing his hair then, too. So now I'm tripping, like, does this just always happen?
I had a friend who was, like, balding in, like, 7th grade. Poor kid.
7th grade?
Yeah.
Can you imagine if Danny started balding? What do you look like?
We're never going to talk about that.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean...
Danny's knocking out wood right now as we speak, by the way. I can see him.
How does that work? It works. It's your
mother's father.
Mother's father. My mother's father died with a full head of hair.
No, then I think you're good.
I am your mother's father's best friend's girlfriend's college
there's
roommate.
New technology every single day with like, hey, use this. It maintains your hair at least.
Nah.
You know?
I have a feeling that's going to be a puzzle that we
that.
never solve. Balding and gray hair. And
well, we solved gray hair.
No, we
done.
haven't.
Yes, we
have. Yeah, we have a hair dye.
You can change your hair color anytime you want.
You'd be surprised.
I'm talking about like reversing shit. Coming up in what?
I mean, we got dye. We're coming up in 20 now. Hair dye.
Oh boy.
That doesn't count, dude.
I think it does.
That's like saying we solved the HIV problem because we have drugs that treat it. That's not the solution.
Did you hear that, Danny? Did you hear that?
Stand by. We're coming up.
This is your captain speaking. We are making our descent into Las Vegas McCarran Airport. On behalf of our crew, we'd like to thank you for flying MMA Junkie Airlines. Now please fasten your seatbelts and put your tray tables in your upright position because the descent is gonna be a little bit bumpy.
Alright, Junkie Nation, it's time to roll, baby, on MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Gold. This is what we doing while we do it, baby. All night long, we rollin'! Yeah!
The MMA Junkie Radio revolution is upon us.
Can you dig it?
There's no escape. No escape. Through the vast frontier of cyberspace and through a sea of stars in outer space.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
We've solidified our combat communications stranglehold.
We are controlling transmission.
With the use of MMA Junkie Radio and SiriusXM satellite radio technology. MMA Junkie Radio. Commence transmission. Live from MMA Junkie Radio HQ in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. Here are your hosts, Gorgeous George and Goes.
From the fight capital of the world inside the beautiful Mandalay Bay Racing Sportsbook, you are listening to the MMA Junkie Radio Show, the only show that matters. I'm your host, Gorgeous George. With me as always is the devious and dastardly Goes, Ari's co-host, back east handling all the producing duties, Danny Otto.
You got me.
And to the left, it's the fight analyst, Dan Tom. What's up, guys?
What's up?
I kept pretty good form in my adjustment, I will say.
We look like the village people.
That was awful. No, you got me.
We look like the village people.
Did we? You should have seen us
More
this
on
morning.
like the sea. Wait, it's
What do we look like this morning,
Why?
Goes?
M.
The chaos
C,
people.
Yeah, the sea. Yeah.
Yeah, we were the chaos people this morning.
Why is that?
Because they, when I say they, I mean Sirius, had difficulties connecting to us today.
Oh. Proceed.
So we had to change all our settings and do all these crazy things. And at the end of the day, all we were able to do was patch a solution for today. But going forward, we don't know what exactly is going to happen.
You know, that reminds me of an email I got about 2 weeks ago. We still have time because the Super Bowl's not this Saturday. It's the following Saturday. We will be displaced, I believe. So I got to run that to Danny. We got to figure out a time that makes sense. I don't think we want to take Friday off just to take it off. We want to save our days off. So it's not, I don't think it's the worst adjustment ever. But yeah, you guys reminded me of that. I got they send it so far in advance that sometimes it gets buried. I get so much stuff that gets buried that I get back to people really late. I always tell just fire again, you know,
okay.
Especially the PR people. If you haven't heard from me, just fire again and we'll get to it. And part of me also thinks that if it was that important, then they would have done that anyway, regardless of whether you're PR or not. But of course, that's my way of making myself feel better for letting it get buried. You were saying, Dan?
I was saying, are you the same way with your, like the way you is your mailbox, text messages, both?
Everything is the most current that comes in, gets addressed to try and stay on top of it. And the old stuff, I just, when I have free time, I get to it, chip away, and try and stay on the current stuff. And most people work off oldest to newest, right? But I figured since I get so many hundreds of emails every day, I'd rather keep those people happy, and then the others, like I say, they could be a new email by just resending the same email. All of a sudden, they're a new person. And so I get to them, and sometimes it's a little too late, sometimes it isn't. But I understand that others work differently. That's just always worked for me. Say, I have so many texts, and there's probably a hope you had a nice Thanksgiving, you know, like, and I'm usually a lot better at catching up on that and clearing it out. I like clearing things out. So I don't keep my texts. I have buddies that'll go, like if I say, LeBron's is the best player in the NBA, they'll go, no. They'll scroll and they'll go, hold on a second. You remember in January 2015, you said, I'm like, oh my God, they actually hold on to stuff like that. And I don't like it, to tell you the truth. Because why is that there? Like, I guess for that reason? I mean, that can't be that important. So me and the conversations I have with people, they get deleted pretty quick. Now, I know there's higher authorities that can grab it if they need it, but I'm not in the business of killing people. So no one really needs to go into my phone and go, well, what did he say? Let's put the clues together. That's just jibber-jabber.
Just gotta get a burner phone like The Wire.
Maybe that, yeah.
I keep a lot of my messages.
You keep a lot of yours?
Yeah.
Now,
a lot of people be tripping.
Where I wish that I did is, you know, special things that maybe a family member or a friend may have said that you kind of, maybe that. But because this job of booking the show and hosting the show and other stuff can be so hectic, I just need my stuff cleared. Then I know I got to. You know what I mean? And that's why I kind of also forget it, because I'm not constantly looking back at it. And, yeah. How about you guys? You guys have tons of texts, tons of emails?
I'm the complete opposite. I'm just like a hyper vigilant, gotta be organized. So I end up losing, portions of my day because of that. I'll spend all times, crossing the T's, dotting the I's. But what I do have, and that haunts me, is a little checklist. next to my computer where it's constantly, I'm constantly writing stuff, checking stuff off, but it feels like I'm writing more stuff than I'm checking off. And as Neil deGrasse Tyson say, it feels like I'm fighting a hydra at a certain point. And that's my to-do list. It haunts me. It usually sits right to the left of my laptop, and that has stuff that I have just rewrite every week, like organize your taxes, Dan. But then there's stuff that I check off, like outline this breakdown, Dan. So it's just this constant balance. That's me. That's my haunting mailbox.
Lists have changed my life.
Okay. You're a list
It's
guy
the
too?
only way I can get things done.
All right,
And
okay.
I love it. I've gotten so much more things done ever since I started making lists.
Yeah.
Where do you write? Do you write them or do you use the computer?
I just put them on my phone.
On notes?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
just check
notes.
them off one by one. But I don't start one. If I start it, I finish it. Because that's where my problem is, doing a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, but none of it ever gets done. Feels so much better when you just get one done.
I am getting better at that, and now I'm telling people, hold on, I'm holding the finger.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on, I'll get to you in a sec, because other people's priorities sometimes start smashing mine, and like, what? Oh yeah, okay, let's go take care of what you just mentioned, what's harping on you, and then it sets me back, or I forget or whatever. So I'm getting a little bit better on, and that's helped me out.
Cool.
Daniel Cormier is our guest today. UFC light heavyweight champ. One of the probably a top 10 fighter of all time. That's safe to say, right?
Yeah.
Easy.
Of all time.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
you can.
I wasn't sure if I said 5. Here come the Fedors and the GSPs and the Andersons and the John Joneses.
You could probably etch his name, and if there's a wooden C, you could probably etch DC's name in there and feel pretty safe about it. Like they're probably not going to throw this out for some time. Like,
Real quick, who's the greatest of all time right now? Of all time.
man, off the top of my head, I guess you got to say John Jones, right?
Goes.
I mean, it's got to be John, but I don't know how we count that.
And between John or
Two.
GSP, those are the top resume. Those are the top 2 resumes.
Two.
So that's,
GSP was
yeah.
3.
It's probably 3.
Demetrius?
Yeah.
4.
Demetrius.
No one's going to hold you to this.
Fighter?
Yeah.
Sure, I'm gonna go.
Sports Illustrated swimsuit model.
I'm gonna go. Shoot.
Maybe.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna homer
Maybe
pick
DC.
for
DC?
BJ Penn, one of the first multi-dimensional guys, one of the first prodigy guys, first guys that could finish both on the floor and on the feet as equally as Boss Rutan said. So I'll stick with Boss and Anderson Silva's pick is BJ Penn, one of the greatest
I mean,
ever.
it's between DC and maybe Hendo for me.
Yeah, and Hendo's right up
Anderson
there.
hasn't been mentioned, by the way.
That's true.
No,
Wow,
it's just too
Anderson
much.
should be.
Well, that's the same as Jones. 2 incidences
Yeah,
each.
but
It-
Jones's resume I think is better.
Okay.
It
So
ref-
the losses then.
Yeah.
Okay.
It reflects back to, I think, the conversation we had here about award time, where there's a difference between there's a difference between how anybody interprets it, but between fighter and resume. Whereas resume, we're talking about GSP and John Jones. Fighter, we're still talking about GSP and John Jones. Don't get me wrong, but you can. That's where when you say fighter, you can Randy Couture, Dan Henderson, BJ Penn, guys with quote unquote bad records, where maybe more newer fans will be like, those guys, those old guys who I saw at the end of their career and have the terrible numbers next to their name, and they don't understand the story.
Right.
Like that's where you go. Like those guys were real fighters.
If
And
Penn was 4, who was your 5?
shoot, I got to go with Randy. Randy and Penn are kind of like right there with me.
That's why
They're
I
like
was scared to
tied
say
together.
top 5, because I knew people would go, he doesn't make my top 5. I just figured 10 safe, and we all just nod our head and go,
Yeah,
yeah, what time
yeah.
Cormier,
Yeah.
But I could probably make an argument for top 5. Maybe top 3. That's tough. I think GSP, Jones, and Demetrius in any order are probably it. And then after that, you got to get into Cormier. Does McGregor make top 10?
Shoot, yeah, I gotta go old school. You know who makes my top 5? Hickson, man. I mean, just from the you want to talk about from street fighting to MMA and kind of everything in between. You want to talk about fight. If we're saying fighters and not resume, if we're using the word fighter, I think someone has to represent not just the old school era, because you don't want to have an old school guy who just have an old school guy. Like you don't want to have Hoist in every list, just to have Hoist in every list because he's the godfather of MMA. But I think Hickson is more of a, as far as you
Give me his quality wins, though.
shit. I mean, no quality. We gotta
That's
go back
the
to
thing.
you gotta go back to
I
like
hear you.
2002
I'm
to
a
that.
big
Yeah.
Hickson fan.
Takata is his biggest win. and
But I
it's
just,
kind of a pro
that's
wrestler.
kind of where,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
there's other guys that
Right,
had
right.
mystique and greatness to them, and they can go, well, let's talk about my titles and my title defenses and
True.
my streaks or my 1 loss or 0 losses or the one loss I avenged. It tightens up. But, if DC beats Stipe, I wonder how that fits in, or where that puts him. I don't know. Because Demetrius does have his 2 losses.
No.
He's great right now. 10 consecutive defenses. Only UFC flyweight champion. He's on an incredible streak. But he does have the 2 losses, you know. GSP can go, oh, I got 2 as well. Now, GSP avenged 2 of them. Both of them, I should say.
Yeah.
Sarah, he finished at 1-1 because Sarah kind of went away. Hughes, it became a trilogy, and he won that. DJ did not do that. Now, DJ didn't really need to do it. I don't even think Pickett dropped to 25. And the other one was Cruz as well, so that was at 35. Now, DJ can go, but I fought at 35. And GSP can only say, I fought at 85, only because he recently did it.
Yeah.
GSP has the 2 weight classes. You see what I'm saying? This is the fun part, like splitting hairs and examining things. So we can go in circles. There's no right, there's no wrong. John Jones, great fighter as well.
Yeah.
It's those allegations that will haunt, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But
basically
cleaning out a division and the title defenses. Not as many as Demetrius. More former champions. You know, there's just it's when you get to 4 and then all of a sudden, it reminds me of our NFL drafts back in the 90s where you'd go, oh boy, there's Emmitt Smith, there's Steve Young, and there was like a 3rd guy, and then after that it was just a free for all. You know what I mean? Something like that. 4 could be anything. You went with Penn. I'd probably go with DC. Who did you say? Hendo. So that's where the arguments start going in different directions. But DC will be a guest of ours.
Yeah.
It's interesting because if he did beat Steve, I was saying that might cut into.
How do you argue that at that point?
Yeah,
exactly. That might cut into what the other guys have done. You know,
the hard things with the DC or even like the DJ. I was just thinking as you were saying that is again back to the fairness of how we fall out. You know, you could praise without necessarily kind of crapping on a thing. But let's just say T.J. Dillashaw beats Demetrius Johnson. You know. I think even the most staunchest defenders of DJ as a pound-for-pound great even have to kind of take a step back, right? And that's only fair.
Right.
But at the same time, DC, he's more of on the resume side of what we're talking about because he's got a really underrated resume. But that's a problem. It's an underrated resume. It doesn't get the respect that I feel, many of us feel that it should get, and deservedly so. But like you guys said, a win over like a Stipe or something. Obviously, DC's already talked about his thoughts on that, kind of shutting it down. But yeah, hypothetically, I think even the people that don't give DC credit can't deny him at that point, right?
Yeah, and I'll clue you all in on something. DZ's not done talking about that topic yet because I plan on bringing it up.
All right.
Just with a different spin, a different angle. We started it like 2-3 months ago, well ahead of his fight. He was in chill mode. Nobody was asking him about Volkan at all, but we just kind of – actually, we've asked him about it before, but, now it kind of started taking off a little bit. And I like it only because – there's no clear-cut guy waiting for Stipe or Daniel. You could say, I said this yesterday, I'll say it real quick. You could say Shogun's won 3 in a row. He's next for Daniel. All right. You could say Fabricio's won 2 in a row. He's next for Stipe. But I don't think any of those are, like, well-deserved. Like, if Conor were to say, I'm fighting in June, the winner of Ferguson and Khabib would be well-deserved for Conor. Even though, by the way, I would think that, Conor should already be fighting Ferguson.
Right.
But, there's just times where it's well-deserved. And I thought Ngannou beating Overeem, he was a well-deserved number 1 to get to Stipe. But, anyway, he says he's not planning to fight till or past March of next year. So I think at best case scenario, there's 3 fights there. Worst case scenario, 1 fight there. Most likely scenario, there's probably 2 fights there.
I think 2 is solid.
Yeah.
2 is the magic
He
number.
told us about 6 months ago he wanted Jones. I think he laid it out. 3 fights. Is that what he said? Or it may have even been before the Jones fight. Or Rumble, I forget how he said. He had 3 names, so he forecasts. He'll be on at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. We'll take some calls from now until then, and also just keep discussing news. Now, here's an old name. Let's get on that one quick. Cousin Nick from Iowa. Been a minute. What's up? How you doing, Nick? Nick from Iowa, you there? Danny's you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
What's up, buddy?
Hello.
Hi.
There it is. Sorry, guys. No, I'm doing good. Let's get down to it. There's a lot to talk about. I kind of want to talk about your greatest of all time list a little bit. There was a time where Anderson Silva was above and beyond number 1 on my list, but the failed drug test, and then in addition to the failed drug test, the bizarreness of his responses to the failed drug test has done a lot, in my opinion, to drop his legacy significantly, I think.
Right. You know, he are you talking about the TMZ video from like the last 24 hours?
All that stuff. Yeah. It's always, he's had a few of these issues, and it's always, no, it was dick pills, no, it was my lawyer, no, it was this, no, it was that. He's never seeming to address things directly or take responsibility for any of these things that are happening in his life.
Yeah. I hear you. And, you know, this is a guy that had the 4 losses even before he got to the UFC. He was 16-4 when he had that disqualification versus Okami, and if you don't even count that, he had the 3 losses. But yet, because he had such a great reign in the UFC with title defenses, the streak, moving up in weight, beating former champs, and he was a human highlight film, we were willing to accept him as the greatest, even though at the time Jones had no losses, GSP had 1 less loss, Demetrius had 1 less loss because he was just on a run. But then he loses to Weidman twice. He's got the allegations against him and a couple more losses, and it's just I think he'll finish out. I think he can still crack most people's top 5 for sure.
Yeah.
Or from 5 to 10,
absolutely.
who knows?
And then also, you know, John. I'm sorry?
Or maybe he's in the 6 to 10 range now. I don't know.
But you got to expect that list to get longer and longer.
We forgot to mention Aldo, but then Aldo gets trumped by McGregor.
Yeah.
You know, so
I mean, when you talk about the greatest
Holloway.
quarterbacks of all time, you can go 8 deep, and you're still gonna have an
Some great
awesome
ones. Marino's
quarterback,
probably like 8 or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what makes it fun. You know, the frustration of the guys, people drop and go up. Even how do you qualify? How do you quantify? It makes it a very interesting conversation. But moving on, I wanted to talk about, George mentioned calling in and talking about the promotion thing. We're still on this.
Yeah,
whose
let
job
me hear
is it
your
to
ideas.
promote? Is it the fighters? Well, okay. I do think that in the parlance of our times, it is on you as a fighter to promote yourself, because the UFC has made it clear that they're not going to do it. And what I would opinionate to be effectively. They do the embeddeds, and they do the Ultimate Fighter. Nobody's watching that shit anymore. But on top of that, what bothers me is in the interim, they've taken away avenues. So, no more promotion. I mean, no more sponsorships. You know, Demetrius used to have an Xbox logo on his shirts when he fought. Paid him pretty good. Can't do that anymore. We have USADA testing now. It's much harder to be a fighter. You have to be monitored around the clock. The bonuses have gone down, not just the amount of bonuses they're giving out, but the amount they're giving out. So what I'm saying is the UFC keeps taking out of the fighter pot to make it harder for them, but doesn't seem to be giving much back on the other end.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it's performance.
Some of those kind of directly
based, right?
affect,
So,
I guess. Some of them don't, but
I mean, what's the easiest way
here's
to
what
go?
it is. You know what? Let's just get right to it. The fact that the fighter can lose and everyone jumps off the bandwagon, I think that's what the lesson that the UFC's been taught over the years. You know what I mean? So you can be a superstar,
Sure.
but the minute you lose, but you're no longer. I mean, you're still that superstar, but your star's not shining as bright. Because you know why? Amongst the 600 other athletes, someone's on that rise, and so they kind of have to, you know, watch that angle a little bit. Now, they've also been burned by superstar athletes. They get behind them, and then all of a sudden, they're too big for the sport. Conor wasn't the first. That kind of happened with Tito as well. You know, and without Tito, they actually came close to just not having cards. So they wanted to make sure that they were the biggest star. They made Dana the biggest star for a while. And then, after a while, those 3 letters, that's really what they need to promote is the UFC. The UFC's coming to town, and that's why arenas sell out before they even find out where the main event is. And sometimes they do find out what the main event is because it's the UFC. They're coming to town. And you kind of trust the UFC that they're going to give you a pretty sick card. And sometimes they do, and sometimes it's just a good card. And sometimes it's like, one of those cards, right? But, again, I think the UFC basically, without saying it, is like, man, you can also just fall off and you're not all that anymore. And it's true. And that's now it's the beauty of mixed martial arts, because as a fan, what if we always showed up and go, I mean, this is how people showed up to Floyd fights. It's just kind of like, I'm just waiting the 12 rounds so I can go cash my ticket. Pacquiao fights. I mean, some of those guys are just unbeatable. And it's fun for a while with GSP and Anderson, you know, but we'd also come in after GSP fights and go, oh, that again. I'm never going to get that pay-per-view. He did it to me again. Remember we used to say that, guys? He did it to me again. 5 rounds, domination, whatever. Now, once he went away, we were like, God damn, but he was great. But he was dominant. You know, so sometimes we don't see it when it's in front of our eyes. And then other guys are just starching. And some guys are starching and talking crap. It's what you remember. It's what you want to talk about. Again, it's building the drama. I came up with this like 3-4 years ago. one of the websites had put out the highest grossing pay-per-views, and if you looked at them, or the highest grossing rivalry, it's two guys that hated each other. So we started trying to help the fighters build drama. The UFC did it too, and they're like, no, it's all about respect and this and that. It is, but at some point, it all still comes back to people want to tune in to watch someone's ass get kicked. You know, teammates didn't want to fight each other, and now TJ and Uriah Faber would be a massive fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a fight, man.
There was a time.
Yeah.
There was a time where you could be a workman in the UFC and still get by via your dynamic fasteners and your gun store and your condom depot.
How does that make you more popular, though?
Not everybody had to be a superstar.
How does that make you more popular?
Okay.
Okay, so let's say the UFC goes, you got the sponsors back. How does it make it more popular? They're going out and doing meet and greets, or their shorts and shirts are shinier, or they pop more?
I'm talking about money in the fighter's pocket.
But you called in saying
promotional side.
You called in saying let's talk about promotion. I get that does make sense. More sponsorship, more money in their pocket. But how can the UFC promote the fighters better? I get sick of hearing people say the UFC needs to do it. I want to hear people's suggestions. Well, so what would be your suggestion?
Going back to what he said, that does help. Like he said, Demetrius Johnson, a lot of people were able
relate
to
the Xbox?
relate to Xbox.
Okay, I get
video
that.
games. How many people
or the
said,
icicles on
the
trucks.
icicles?
Okay.
Even if you went the guy with the pink shorts, Rich Franklin or Phil Davis, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are little small things like that help you remember the fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Can't all be dancing Irishmen, you know? And the thing is like, well, we gave you the embedded. It's like, yeah, but how does that help me specifically? You're marketing every fighter like they're the same fighter, and if you're not Irish, or if you're not a character, then we're not interested in you. And it didn't...
Completely feel you. I completely feel you there.
All right, man. I'm going to get off the line.
All right, brother. Good to hear from you.
You guys have a good...
All right. I do feel him on that. Okay, more of... And I think Reebok's next generation identified it. I don't know if it was across the board, but some of the athletes are getting preferential colors or logos or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really pay attention too much to that. But still, is that... What else? That's a good idea. What else?
I think what fighters are looking for
You said
are just
face-offs?
I think a face-off would be amazing.
Anything else?
Maybe how about just a quick 5-minute get-to-know your fighter type video that you can post on social media, give it to the fighter. Like, have you noticed all the female fighters have been posting their UFC video game picture and their statistics? Just little things like that they can get from the organization.
Some will say that's only going to the hardcore audience, though.
Well, Twitter, social media. Social media is a little bit bigger than just hardcores, right?
Maybe just more radio and TV.
Maybe, yeah.
You guys know my opinion as far as comes down to storytelling, promotion. I feel they should lay down the tracks at least, but yeah, the fighter largely their responsibility to walk through. A lot of the video stuff, that was great. That was great points by Nick there. Like, as far as like who's really seeing this, are we in the bubble? So that kind of harkens back to the idea I said yesterday. Why don't we use the outside the bubble tools that I feel aren't being used instead of these Endeavor people making matchups, deciding how many shows we're going to run a year. How about they use their entertainment, again, talking about their entertainment tools they have at their back, the reason why we teamed up for them, and not just handing out the occasional Under Armour deal or this or that. You can't have an actual job fair of sorts, but you know what I'm saying? Having your profile fighters and different things and being able to place them with different companies. For example, the Game of Thrones, that redheaded beard guy, they put on all those commercials going, you tell me Emil Meek waving an axe, throwing him an advertising product, you're telling me a company wouldn't eat that up, and some schmo that doesn't even know anything about MMA is going to be like, oh, look at that Viking-looking character. You know what I'm saying? And again, how many companies and how many backdoors do they have access to? I don't know. Maybe they are doing that. I would like to give them the benefit of the doubt.
I like that idea.
But
I like the face-off. I like Cousin Nick talking about the uniforms, being a little bit more tailor-made. I think here's what happened, man. I'll explain it one more time. I think what happened with the UFC is because along the way they got burned. I mean, an athlete can turn on the UFC so fast, and all of a sudden the fans are on the side of the athlete. And look, of course the UFC's probably got dirt under their fingernails. Of course they've done stuff, to make this business survive. Again, I can name off 10 organizations that aren't around. So they tried it a certain way and it didn't work, where the fighters got benefits and they could wear their own stuff. You know what I mean? So there had to be something to keep this thing going. This is where people can't stand when I talk about this, because I also think that the UFC at some point, whether it was year 10, 15, 20, whatever, just realized, wait a minute, this is the product. You know what I mean? And when they do something and get off their ass and they promote themselves and they win fights and they also talk up our product and themselves, we get behind them. Until then,
100%.
it doesn't matter because they could have an immediate fall off as well. You know what I mean? And that kind of does suck, but that's why we tell the fighters maximize every fight, because all it takes is a 2-fight losing streak, you're out. All it takes is you saying something that doesn't sit right, you're out. You know, or you asking for too much money, you're out. You know, and you have to prove, and then it also prove their worth when it comes back to negotiation time. And well, what's that formula? The one that I can see is just talking. It doesn't have to always be trash talk. It doesn't have to be like your mother this, your sister this, or whatever, but it has to be you, promotion, you, confident, you, an outlook of your career, what you're gonna do that night, why the fans should, and you look at pro wrestling and fucking people showing up for predetermined matches. You know, I mean, people gobble it up. People, okay, let's look at the history of boxing. We only have 25 years of history. They have 100 years. Who are the ones that are pretty popular? The ones that talked up a big game. Who are the ones that are pretty popular in pro wrestling? Same thing. The ones that talked up a pretty good game. Either that or you had to have a nasty look about you, like a Chuck Liddell. He wasn't the greatest talker, but he had a good look.
Cowboy Cerrone.
Yeah. He fought frequently. He had a good look. The hat, you know, he had a little bit of swag. And unfortunately, not a lot of people. But like Lyoto Machida, you just couldn't really make that guy into one of those.
But even the smaller guys, like putting in the calories. You guys just mentioned Calvin Cater. You know, he not only is he quietly a really talented martial artist and fighter, but he's quietly a sharp promoter. He actually has a promotion, you know, back in Boston.
That's right. And
that's part of the reason why his resume is a little spotty. But you can tell he's picked up a lot of the things that you're saying, George, because what not only was he, you know, dropping the Pats thing that you guys said, but if you look in the second UFC fight, he's got all these people in the audience wearing his shirts. And granted, it's in Boston, but the UFC sees that, and sure, they're not going to maybe give you an Under Armour sponsorship and give you the Sage Northcutt treatment, but they're going to be like, oh wow, what we are going to do is when this guy fights in this region, we're going to make sure we give him a good spot and a good matchup and pump him up, and that's your step. You go from there.
And guess what? Every once in a while, the UFC will say, "Hey, you need to come out and you need to do the Q&A, or you need to go around and shake hands or whatever. Go out there and fucking give it your all." You know what I mean? There was fighters that say, "Well, I need to get paid to do that." Roger Huerta did it, and guess what? He went away, and he could have really, really been a pretty big star. He had been on, what was it, Sports Illustrated?
Yeah, the cover.
Or Sporting News, one of those?
Sports Illustrated.
Right, and but you know, he had a complaint here. I'm not saying it wasn't valid, but it has to be the right time, because if there was no other Roger Huerta, then he'd go, "What you gonna do? What are you gonna do? UFC cut me? Who else are you gonna put in there?" And if the UFC doesn't have anyone else, kind of which is what Tito did, they're like, "Fuck, we gotta play ball." You know what I mean? But at some point, they're like, "Well, we'll just grab Frankie Edgar, or we'll grab the next person. Bye Roger Huerta," and they'll grab that new person that they need to do business with. You know what I mean? So they're just doing one-on-one business transactions with everyone.
But what about a guy like George Masvidal? He does a lot of the things that we just mentioned, but the UFC kind of doesn't really back him that much. Have you noticed?
They didn't send him out for Q&A.
They sent him to Australia. They sent him to China.
A little bit of that too. Here's the other side
maybe
that I think fighters don't like.
Couple fights he dropped. I don't know.
A side that I think fighters don't like is a guy like Kamaru Usman, who, in his eyes, I'm winning fights. I'm doing my job. Maybe you don't like the way I'm doing it, but do you need to go out and do reverse of pubbing me up and making me look stupid to people? I mean, Dana kind of just said, "Hey, I don't like the way this guy. I don't like the way
he didn't like the 30% thing, right?
30%.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of contradictory too to trying to promote your guys too. I think that's why they get upset.
All right.
Hey, at the end of the day, the guy won.
Does the commissioner of the NFL have to promote all of his athletes? I mean, is he have to really promoting them?
He's got to promote the league.
He does, and that's, I think, what Dana does. I don't know that Dana has to. He should. He doesn't have to, and I don't think if he doesn't, it's like a mortal sin. Because show me where the business is doing bad. I mean, I think he's saying, well, wait a minute, the way we've been doing business is kind of working out.
But does the promoter come out and say, well, yeah, Baltimore won, but 7-3. Whatever, let's move on to next week. Who's
Correct.
Philly got? They don't do that,
Correct.
Right?
But a lot of times you ask the commissioner, what do you think about the Super Bowl? It'll be a great game between two teams that have been established in the NFL. And the Patriots going, you know, for the second time or third time in 4 years, it's quite an accomplishment, you know. And it's like, yeah, and so who tunes into that? Who really tunes into the NFL press conferences? No one that I know of. None of my friends, whether they're hardcore football fans or even casual fans. I think you get a couple snippets here from that media day. Oh, my God, they're all on the field, and Tom Brady had his hat backwards, whatever. No big deal. But you pay attention to a Dana White press conference because he's talking a little bit of smack, you know?
You're never going to miss a Super Bowl. Never.
Right.
You'll never miss one. Doesn't matter who's in it. You know why? Because you got to know who the best is. And it took a while to develop that amongst fans, that they have to know who the best team is going to be. That's where I think the UFC has to make it so that you have to know who the best fighter is that night. Regardless of what their style is or where they come from, at the end of the day, you need to do
I think he's checking him and anyone else that wants to act like him for the next 5 years. That's what he's doing.
Do it behind closed doors is all I'm saying.
Maybe. I'm not saying I disagree with you, but I think that's what his job is just to check fighters that are saying or acting a certain way, and it's not just them directly. It's whoever else starts to act like a fool, kind of like that's not the road. And then anyone else that does things the right way, he'll be like, attaboy or whatever, and that's saying, hey, see what he's doing? Do more of that. And it is his business, you know what I mean? And it's a pretty successful one. So, yeah, sometimes you got to bite your tongue and go, fuck, I don't want to do that. But I guess I got to or whatever and just play ball. Then you know what? When you're fucking 40 with a big old belly, write a book. Yeah, I really didn't really want to do it. I really dislike that person. But in the meantime, maximize your time to make yourself money and your family some money. Use them as much as they're using you. I've said it before. They're the pimp. Your guys are the fighters of the hose. Flip it. Flip it on them as well. You know what I mean? Some of them play ball, and they have no problem when you do that because, again, you're both making money, and that's what he's in the business of, is to make money. Maybe I'm just crazy. We better take a break. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. We'll keep up the discussion. If you want to call in, I want to hear more.
on the underbelly of the MMA community. But hey, stretch marks are the new tats. They are Gorgeous George and Goes.
It's Super Bowl trivia on Mad Dog Sports Radio. Join Christopher Mad Dog Russo all week as the marquee will be giving away 4 trips to the Super Bowl, 2 tickets to the game, hotel accommodations, and an experience to remember for a lifetime. All you have to do is answer 4 Super Bowl trivia questions, and you'll be on your way. Super Bowl trivia starts at 3 Eastern. This is daily, and it's on Mad Dog Sports Radio, Sirius XM 82. Let's get back to the calls. Let's continue the discussion. We'll start with Showtime in Tennessee. What's up, Showtime? It's yo time.
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Not much, man.
Man, check out how backwards shit is. How about I'm in freaking Mass a couple days after my schedule is, man. And it's fucking miserable up here. I know I love Russ to death, but I don't know how people live up here, man. This shit is miserable, man. It's just cold and wet. Today it's not even really cold. It's
they
like
get to see the seasons change is what I hear.
Man.
You know, we get to see the leaves.
The foliage.
They change color just after Labor Day, and we get snow in the winter for Christmas. And I'm not saying that's not cool, and I wouldn't want to see that, but I'm just good with, like, going to visit Sam All Jam or Russ from Boston sometime in the fall and going, let me see those leaves. And then kind of going, that is pretty cool, and getting the fuck out after that, because what else is cool about freezing your ass off? The snow, you know, snowball fight or whatever, or maybe you're into skiing and maybe you love that stuff. Who knows? But for me, I just like warmer weather. I can handle the cold for a little while, but like even when we wake up, it's 32, 34, and then it warms up to about 60.
Pretty cold.
And that's only for about a week, and then after that, we're good, and then maybe we get another little cold front. East Coasters are laughing right now because that's not cold to them. But still, I like that. Any more than that, I'll just go to Mount Charleston if I really want to ski or have a snowball fight or do whatever. I didn't grow up with that. Maybe if I grew up with it, I'd like it.
Hey, I agree with you on that. Hey, man, I had to mention it yesterday. I know you guys know I'm a big Eagles fan. How about them damn Eagles, baby?
Yeah, they did their job.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. That's amazing without their starting quarterback to just rally like that and win some key games down the season. Like, you know, they beat the Rams. I remember that was a good game. I watched that one. They kept their home field advantage, and they took out 2 tough teams, a great defensive team in Minnesota and a great offensive team in Atlanta. So they deserve their spot. I'm hearing the fans went crazy, and there's YouTube stuff out there. And
Philly fans? What?
Yeah, you know, I went to the stadium, and I got yelled at and told to sit down and this and that, and I just waved the finger a couple times. We laughed it off, did this. No big deal, you know. They're just loudmouths, but I'm just hearing Scott Holloway was saying, I'm cheering for the other team because Philly fans are just a little too tough. I mean, like, would you get a wedgie or something from one of them? I mean, come on, grow up, you know. Toughen up a little bit more than that. You should go to a soccer game in Europe or South America and then talk to me about what the fans are like.
Did you ever see fireworks at you?
Huh?
They're throwing fireworks
exactly.
at you.
Speaking of Philly fans, you guys ever see that Bill Burr video where he's getting booed by all the Philly fans, but he just slaughters them?
Yeah, that's great. That's their thing, you know, and they know it, so they'll go out of their way to do it, you know. But it's kind of like "U va morrer" in Brazil. They know it and they say it. That's just their thing.
Hey, but you know what? I'm a Philly fan, but I can remember days ago when one of my homeboys played, I went to a game. Man, the Philly fans can be real ignorant, man. I mean, seriously, to the no class at all. I will say that. They're very loyal fan base, but, man, they can be crazy. I think I may equate them to the Oakland Raiders fans, man. They can get a little extra.
Every team has those Showtime. It's just some teams have more of them.
Every rose has its thorn.
Hey, I'm going to put this in fight terms, man. Damn, I hope Brady get old overnight, man. Cause, I mean, we're going to have to, seriously, man, we're going to have to hit this dude, man, really kind of. Do you guys remember that game when the Saints beat Minnesota with Brett Favre, and they were just basically hitting Favre late? I know we won't be able to do that with Brady because we'll get the flag. Him and Peyton Manning, they won't let you hit them like that. But we got to rough him up, man. We got to hit him late. We got to, we got to get a little bit dirty, man.
Well, Jacksonville did that. Jacksonville
playing
really
football.
hurt them a lot in the first quarter. They disrupted them. They sacked them. They knocked them down. But you know, you have to play like that for 4 quarters. Otherwise, the Patriots they're just very disciplined, and you know they don't jump off sides. You know, I mean, you could be a starter, and if you commit a mistake, they'll pull you out for a while and put someone else in. And if you repeatedly do that mistake, you'll lose your starting job. There's that kind of pressure in New England, and therefore, I think everyone tries to raise their level of their competition, you know, and prepare. You know, they prepare out there. They go to their team meetings. They listen to their coaches, and the coaches also create an environment where they play off of each other as well. They play a lot of good team ball. They buy into a system.
Oh yeah. I mean, we just
Be safe out there, buddy. Got to move on. Let's go to Jeffrey in L.A. What's up, Jeffrey? It's not the NFL Network. It's MMA Junkie Radio. Let's move back to MMA. What's up, man?
Jeffrey in Los Astros. How y'all doing this morning, Gorgeous George and Ghost?
I'm all right. How about you?
Better than Custer. Thank you. Well, it's another day. Another UFC hype train derailed. At UFC 220, Francis Ngannou's hype train went careening over a cliff like that train in Back to the Future Part 3. All the odds makers are wrong, as they always are. They're full of crap. That includes you, Joey Odessa. Just because, look, this guy's big, he's strong, he weighs 40 pounds
Odessa
more.
picked
That makes
Miocic.
him a liability in a fight like Stipe Miocic.
Odessa
Stipe
picked
Miocic
Miocic,
is the
by the way.
greatest heavyweight of all time. Who did Francis Ngannou beat before that damn fight? He never fought a wrestler. Stipe Miocic, he had 5 knockouts in a row. So what about Francis Ngannou? He's big. He can hit hard. So can Stipe Miocic. He had 4 first-round knockouts in a row, and he was an NCAA Division I wrestling champion. That's not something Ngannou ever had.
Miocic wasn't a Division I wrestling champion. He was a Division I wrestler, but not a Division I wrestling champion.
You know who was a wrestling champion? The guy who Ngannou faced, called Curtis Blades. He was a junior college champion, as well as the same organization John Jones
I don't know
wrestled from.
if this is against Odessa. I know he took Miocic, by the way. He took Miocic, not Ngannou. Ngannou did deserve a spot, though. He beat the key guys, and he knocked out Overeem. And I mean, who else would you have put to face Miocic if not for Ngannou, right? It's hard to disagree with that.
Yeah.
Stipe Miocic is a true champion. He's the greatest UFC heavyweight champion of all time.
I agree.
He deserved respect. He did not get enough respect before this fight, and Ngannou didn't beat anyone. He never faced any, and everyone.
He beat Overeem. He beat Overeem. I mean, even if the other fighters he beat were good fighters, but.
And he finished him. I mean, if you're going to face what you call lesser competition,
Right.
you have to get the finish, which he did.
Jeffrey started to not make sense a little bit.
Did somebody hurt Jeffrey? Did somebody hurt Jeffrey?
I don't know. He's always had a thing for Odessa, but Odessa did pick Miocic. Ngannou deserved to fight Stipe because he beat the guy that. Okay, remember when Verdum fought Overeem? Overeem eliminated Verdum, right? And then Overeem still needed to take another fight, and by then it was Ngannou, who Ngannou was supposed to face JDS, but JDS had the allegations, right?
Right.
So Ngannou comes through, and he faces and he starches Overeem. Now, one could even argue, wow, he had an easier time with Overeem than Stipe did. But regardless, come fight time, Ngannou was the favorite. But the odds are based on not just performance, just the anticipated take at the window. And if you'll recall, didn't I say that Ngannou's odds had gone up 20 from when I came in on Monday? And I go, hey, let's see what the odds are on fight week.
Yeah.
We just turned the page. Towards the end, he had gone up to minus 220. So most people agreed with the odds makers who, which in this case was Joey, most people agreed with the favorite because the favorite money went up.
Right.
Whether that was casuals or hardcores, I don't know. Because respected media people like yourself took Ngannou.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That fight could have went in many ways. But I do know that Joey took Stipe. That's why I jumped in. I'm not trying to be his cheerleader, his personal
White Knight
or nothing like that. But he did take Miocic.
Yeah.
And then again, he deserved. I think Ngannou deserved his spot to fight for the world title. So I thought Jeffrey, who's a very good caller, just was way off.
I get what he's saying. I think he's just a little too over the top.
Yes.
Hype, maybe a little bit. But here's the thing: if they were to fight again tomorrow, I took Stipe, but I would probably take him again, but I would still be like, I don't know. It's a tough matchup. And you don't do that against a guy that's not worthy of that spot. Francis Ngannou can beat all of these guys. It just depends. Stipe just happened to have a great night, and he did exactly what he had to do.
A good game plan.
But it doesn't mean that Ngannou's not dangerous. And not, I mean, come on. We put a gun to Jeffrey's head and tell him, put your money down. Like, he wouldn't feel comfortable about it. If they were all hype, you would sit up with your feet up on the counter and go, this is done. This is a lock.
You'd be going to the counter up there and whatnot. Like, I was on the wrong side of the pick. I have no problem admitting that. And if you put me in a time machine, I'm okay with the thought process and argument. You know, I stayed out. But the people that are coming hard the day after, that after the results are done, coming hard, going, everybody disrespected Miocic. I want to go back and ask those people, like, so you're telling me that, A, if I were to ask you the week of the fight, that I would go, okay, you're taking Miocic, there's no wrong with that. In fact, I agree with you. Even though I'm picking the other way, I agree. The odds are off. I didn't think Miocic should have been – I thought Miocic should have been the favorite. I just couldn't get past, the power and all that argument. So you're telling me that if you're so confident in Miocic, the week of fight week, someone asks you, hey, can Miocic get tagged by Ngannou? You're going to say no, you're that confident. And if you are that confident, why weren't you running over to your nearest betting counter, putting the tickets and posting that?
From your yacht right now?
Instead, people having this chip on their shoulder. It's that thing that they do. This is why I don't follow mainstream sports when they're a Vikings fan or this fan, like, oh, we were so close. And I kind of get that. But where I start stepping off board is when we talk about fighting, where people have this attachment. If anybody should have a chip on their shoulder, it should be Stipe Miocic. If anybody should be pumping his chest and passive aggressive, it should be Stipe Miocic. He's the guy that got in there. He's the one that should have the chip on his shoulder. If anybody should felt disrespected, it was him. But I just think we should kind of temper that talk. I'm actually a big fan of Jeffrey's call, by the way. So I'm glad that he's.
But he was wrong on many fronts, though.
Well, no. I mean, I'm talking about him in general. So I'm a fan of his call in general. So I don't want to be picking on him here. But yeah,
he did what we just talked about with fighters. He just sold himself. If this is the first week of listening to this show, you're probably going to remember that name.
Yeah,
based on his call.
Yeah. Well, he's 11-1 overall going into the fight, 6-0 in the UFC, and all of them were finishes, and the last 4 were in the first round. The only thing I'd say is Luis Enrique, Curtis Blades, Bojan Mihovic, Anthony Hamilton. It took a while before he got to Andrei Arlovski, which was maybe a step up, I guess. And Andrei's a former UFC champion, but he's past his prime. But he did fight Alistair Overeem, who was a clear #1 contender, and he took him out. So that's why he deserved a spot. Now, the hype train was just, hey, man, they are looking to – I'm sure the UFC has a certain amount of advertising dollars that they budget for every fight. And, again, going back to Stipe, not to pick on him, but he doesn't really like that limelight too much. Mm-hmm. So I think they just said, well, let's focus on the ones that embrace it and are willing to go out there and put it on. This guy could be the first champion from the continent of Africa. He's got that cartoon character figure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's got an amazing highlight reel as well. And, one of them was just 6 weeks ago in Detroit on a great card of ours. So maybe that's why they gave him that push. Who knows? Now I think they'll hopefully be smart and push Miocic. We have another break. Okay, you're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. We'll have time to maybe take a call or two, 866-522-2846. We'd love to chat with you about promotion, about Stipe and Ngannou, whatever. I do agree with Jeffrey, though. One point he made, he is the best heavyweight in the history of the UFC, in my opinion. I also believe he's the best heavyweight in the history of the game.
And we said that on yesterday's show, by the way.
All right, we'll be right back.
Yeah, you. Can you please tap that rather large fellow on the shoulder and tell him it's time for more MMA Junkie Radio with Gorgeous George and Goes? Thank you.
We are back. And I'd like to tell you all that you can start your day with SiriusXM by enabling the SiriusXM skill on your Amazon device. Then tell Alexa to set an alarm for your favorite channel. You will wake up to the sounds of SiriusXM. With SiriusXM and Alexa, you can get the latest sports news each morning without picking up your phone or turning on the TV. Let's take one more call here before the top of the hour. We are going to break in a little bit and come back with Daniel Cormier, the UFC light heavyweight champion. It's Kevin from Chicago. What's up, Kevin?
What's going on? So Stipe Miocic shut up all the haters and doubters, huh?
He sure did.
So what was up with Dana White? What's the deal? Is Stipe Miocic mad that he's not getting paid enough? Is he mad that they're hyping up Francis? What's the deal with that?
Okay, I'll tell you what the deal is. He was after this fight with Junior Dos Santos, they wanted him to fight, throughout the summer or the fall, and he didn't want to. He wanted to get paid more. He had found out that Mark Hunt and Alistair Overeem were making more money as a challenger than he was as a champion. And so, therefore, he kind of held out. And eventually, there was probably some negotiations that took place. And in those negotiations, things can sometimes get a little bit nasty. I'm sure at some point he heard, hey, man, you just kind of don't bring in as much eyeballs as these other champions. Who knows? I don't know what he heard, but he took some of that to heart, didn't like it. At the same time, a lot of people were, they were favoring Ngannou. He was the favorite. So, media were taking him. And fighters are they have egos, man. They have massive egos. All of them, not just Stipe. I'm not singling him out. And when they hear something they don't like, they have a chip on their shoulder. So I'm sure it was a little bit of all of that.
I mean, he did fill out the Cleveland Stadium.
I know.
I think he's pretty popular. I don't know. Dana's underestimating his worth, in my opinion.
Well, you know what? When we come back, after we interview DC, I'll tell you another reason I think the UFC's just never gotten behind him. I think it's just because he's not a full-time athlete. He still has the fireman thing. And even though maybe they could make that into a positive, it's the fact that just, look at your sport. A fireman started training, and all of a sudden he's your best fighter. I mean, I don't know. It's probably something that I think has always bothered them.
He's not going to Dana's will. He does his own thing. He's a proud man. He's not going to.
We got to move on.
Crap.
Thanks for the call. We got to move on. We'll be right back.
Yeah, here we go for the 100th time. Hand grenade pins in every line. Throw 'em up and let something shine. Throwing out of my fucking mind. Filthy mouth, no excuse. Find a new place to hang this noose. String me up from atop these roofs. Got it tight so I won't get loose. Truth is you can stop and stare. Run myself out and no one cares. Dug the trench out, lay down there with a shovel up out of reach somewhere. Yeah, someone pouring in. Make it a dirt dance floor again. Say your prayers and stop it out when they bring that chorus in. I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away. I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away. I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away. Just to throw it away. Just to throw it away. I bleed it out. Go stop the show. Choppy words and a sloppy flow. Shotgun opera lock and load. Cock it back and then watch it go. Mama help me, I've been cursed. Death is rolling in every verse. Candy paint on his brand new hearse. Can't contain him, he knows he works. This hurts, I won't lie. Doesn't matter how hard I try. Half the words don't mean a thing, and I know that I won't be satisfied. So why try ignoring him? Make it a dirt dance floor again. Say your prayers and stop it out when they bring that chorus in. I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away. I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away. I bleed it out, digging deeper just to throw it away. Just to throw it away. Just to throw it away. I bleed it out. I fall into the skies. I'm like hellfire stars. I pull myself so far. I'm like hellfire stars.
All right, here we go. It's the second hour of the MMA Junkie Radio Show. Had to let that one go a little bit longer.
Sucks you're never going to hear it.
My man Chester Bennington no longer with us. Big loss for music.
You know
Daniel
how
Cormier will join us in about 15 minutes. We can take calls at 866-522-2846. Goes.
you know how in our sport, like, weight cutting's a big issue, right? People were talking about that. How one day we're gonna lose a fighter because of it, that sort of thing. In the music world, are they to the point where they need to start having conversations like something about whatever goes on in this industry? We're losing way too many people to suicides, to drug addictions. Like, when do the screws get tightened in that world? Do these guys tour too much? What happens? I mean, I don't know. But it just seems like it's one after another, after another, after another.
That is a good question. Okay. I think I have the answer. Fame is a drug. And so think about when you put out an album and everyone's into it, into what you're doing. You're the greatest. It's over. Can I have your autograph? Can I have a selfie? People cry to your presence and blah, blah, blah. And especially now with social media. But back then, who knows, you know, maybe you had fan mail. I guess a P.O. box, who knows what. And that stuff is intoxicating for a lot of people. You know, it makes them feel good about themselves. Now, Chester actually, I think he's been very open by the fact that he was molested, right? Or
I don't know.
I believe so. And so that's just something he dealt with. But going back to others. So you get that. And then all this, and there's a ton of money coming in. And so when you start leading that lifestyle of, well, you know, I only drink a certain wine, or I don't wait in line, or I'm only in first class, or I'm only this, and then it all gets taken away, that's a steep fall, especially if along the way you are an asshole to people, because people can't wait. They're like this. Wait till that shitty album comes out. And then we're going to go, oh, look who's no longer the headliner. Look who's opening for the other band. Or look who's not selling out. You know what I mean? Because there's just bad people that want to see you fall. Especially if on the way up, you were an ass. There's your fans that stick with you. There's a lot of people that just can't handle it. And then when you start rubbing elbows with other people that are like that, I'm sorry, man, but those people dabble in other highs. You know what I mean? And it just starts to get out of control, and your life just doesn't seem normal if you're not snorting something or drinking till you pass out. Sometimes you meet a special someone, and they're able to dial you in, you know. You start having kids, and you grow up, and you do whatever. And then other times it's like, no, man, it's more fun being in the tour bus with the boys and doing whatever than growing up and having a responsibility. And so at some point, you know, a lot of these drugs, I mean, I'm sure pot has responsible for a lot of great lyrics out there, you know, and maybe some of the other drugs, but a lot of those other drugs start to just chip away at your health, your brain, and next thing you know, you have a bad night, and that's it. You know what I mean? It's over.
Yeah, I think definitely, you know, that's a big part of it as far as the environmental factor. As far as the biological factor, I have my own theory as somebody who has fought in a cage and sung on a stage. If we're going to use those examples, Goes use. I guess.
Sang?
Yeah, I was in a band. I toured around. I was in our merch.
Automatic 254?
No. There's probably if
Wow.
you dig deep enough, you can find a bunch of embarrassing stuff on Dan Tom on the internet. Maybe MySpace for starters. But no. I think it's just these things you hear like Rogan talk about on his podcast, for example, with comedians. Art. If you're art, I also said this is something that came clear to me as a kid. If you're artist in one way, you're artist in many ways. I started off drawing Ninja Turtles on napkins and doing martial arts, and you know, you find that common thread with a lot of people. And another common thread with if you're artist in one way, you're artist in many. When you were an artist or you're into these particular things, you're not drawing the most stable of people. And again, I'm speaking from myself here, right? But like you know what I'm saying. So now you have that kind of Icarus effect, right? You're flying too close to the sun, where you know, if you're an artist and you have these vehicles, like George said, with the money, fame, social media, all those other things, it gives you a vehicle to show your art, but it also gives you a vehicle to kind of float too close to the sun. Conor McGregor is kind of a more relevant example to our sport, right? And I think that honestly, it is a lot of it. You know, it's a give and take there. It's how you take it. It's like that what comedian says that? Oh, if you're crazy and you're rich, you're eclectic. If you're crazy and you're poor, you're just crazy, right? It's that thing.
True. And when you're involved in entertainment, you are a little bit out of the touch of reality with what most people, how most people are living their lives. And I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but you have a certain look to you. And at the same time, when you're in your confined arena, so like Danny, for example, when he goes in there and sings, he's the lead singer of Automatic 253, and they go out there and they do a gig, their fans love him, right? And they love performing for their fans, and there's a connection. But anyone outside of maybe that genre of music might go, what are they listening to? And anyone that doesn't even like music might be like, oh my God, these guys, you know, or these people, or whatever. And so now the concert's over, and they all filter out into the streets of New York or New Jersey or wherever. The common man's not dressed like that. The common man's may not even be into that music. Danny, I'm not coming at you. I'm just trying to give an explanation. I don't want to wow me or whatever. And what's happening is you just have cruel people that go, look at fucking blue hair over here, or look at torn jeans guy over here, or look at tight leather pant guy over here. You see what I'm saying?
Keep going.
So no, those artistic people, they get shit on a lot. You know what I mean?
Right,
by not just everybody thinks that's by alphas or jocks or whatever. It's not just by that. It's just by a lot of regular people that are like, you know, look at this. Can you believe that? Or whatever. But that's their thing. But in their area, they're superheroes in a way, you know, because people pay to hear them sing and play an instrument and do whatever. But again, if that all goes away and you don't have some touch of reality, man, or a struggle to get there, if it's like instant, oh fuck, you can spiral hard.
Yep. That's why I think it's kind of important to, you know, respect these people's journeys. And I think that was kind of a theme coming off of that. You know, we heard some fan takes earlier, but we also heard the champions in their post-fight press conferences saying these things for a reason, because, you know, these outside things that kind of interweave into our show that we talk about do interweave into our sport. And sometimes justifiably so, sometimes not so justifiably so. And I think it's important to remember that these guys are just humans at the end of the day. That's what I always tell people. Like, oh, you train shoot. Oh, you interview. It's like, no, these guys are just humans at the end of the day, people. They have problems like you and me. They're not above it. And that's why I guess maybe, you know, maybe my experiences of two, even though very, very limited in that world, as far as professional fighting or anything like that. But my experiences with it kind of gives me a certain, you know, a certain respect to more than most maybe, but in general, I think even as a fan, if you don't have any martial arts experience or you don't work in the media like you guys, I think we all can maybe have a little bit of healthy, you know, reminder of these guys' journeys. You know, it doesn't have to be you know, A versus B. It doesn't, you know, or anything like that. You can. You know, sorry, I'm ranting here, but you guys get the point I'm trying to hammer.
That's how sports is in America, though. There's a winner and
there's
a loser.
And that's what makes it great too.
And the losers can be anywhere from kicked down to helped up, but either way, they're reminded it wasn't their night that night, and we celebrated in different ways. And now with social media, it can be very, very cruel.
Right.
So a lot of fighters take a while, but they get used to, like, I've lost before, and they don't take it as hard. Others take it really, really hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
that's what I'm speaking more to. Yeah.
To them, I say, you know what? Welcome to professional sports. All professional athletes get crapped on, left and right. The difference is in our sport, they don't get paid as much.
Yep.
Maybe
and they're
the
sacrificing a lot more.
1% gets paid a ton, but the rest don't get paid as much. So that's why the cornerback that got burned, you were toast. They got 3 TDs on you as he was walking through the tunnel. He's walking, but guess what? He's cashing a big $400,000 check that week.
Yeah.
And another one the next week. And another one the next week. Why? Because he makes $8.2 million. I don't know. I don't check the math. I don't know if it was right or wrong. Whatever. That's not the point. But there's so many layers away that it doesn't matter. They don't even have to answer the guy and go, what'd you say? Rarely do you see a football player. I think in Jacksonville they did that. What'd you say? Oh, man. Hell no, man. They're just like, it wasn't my day. That's it, Yeah. The coaches will tell them that, too. The coaches and the athletes will tell them on the sideline, hey, man, you're better than this. It's not your day, blah, blah, blah. And then they rally them for next week. And they got next week to change it and maybe pick it off a few times. And then the next thing you know, he's signing his own jersey out there or whatever. But, again, he's making a lot. In MMA, it all hinges on that one fight. And you might not get another fight for 3, 6, 9 months, maybe a year.
Yeah.
And you'll get crushed on social media because that's how our sport grew up through social media. And that's the only way you can ride it is by getting right back on the horse. Bisping tried to do it. It didn't work out. 2 losses in like 6 weeks. That hurt him. You know what I mean? And their checks just aren't as big. And half of their check hinges on the win bonus. So there's a lot of things, man, that like work against the MMA athlete.
Right.
So if educated fans learned that and saw that, yeah, maybe they'd slow their roll a little bit, but they're probably not gonna because only the newer generation started off as MMA fans. Most fans come from another sport where you boo and you hiss.
Right.
And you do this and you do that and you migrate over to MMA.
And just to be clear, I have no issue. Like, I'm not saying that, hey, no cheering or anything like that. Like, obviously, in fact, it's a good thing, like, because that creates interest. And if you really do love our sport, you want interest, which is another reason why the argument we're talking about is kind of, hypocritical, where if you want our sport to grow, why are we crapping on the guys who are interim champions who are fighting but promoting guys who aren't fighting, or we're crapping on a guy with an amazing story who was homeless, like the other guy that we're holding up who went from poverty to champion in McGregor, but when this guy does it, we crap on him. But even forgetting about the Stipe and Ngannou talk, or forgetting about anything, those personal things, what we're talking about here, again, not cheering, it's about kind of supporting, and what you guys just said, these guys kind of do. I believe that it's not like other sports. These guys don't make as much, and they sacrifice so much. Forget about the big names that fought this weekend. Sabaho Masi, okay, a Sucker Punch Entertainment guy. I'm sorry, the name's Brian Butler. Yeah, he posted. I don't know if you guys saw, but he posted an Instagram story where, Sabaho Masi got knocked out by Abdul Razak Al Hassan after doing a really quick turnaround in what was a war for their first fight, and he probably got more retweets on him getting his face clocked than more. Those retweets probably extend the amount of dollars that he got paid that night from the UFC. Okay, that's probably easy blind proclamation to make. And there's a story that Brian Butler just posted where he was up all night in the hospital in excruciating pain where the morphine couldn't even keep the pain up because he had multiple fractures in his teeth and in the jaw, and they posted an x-ray of the thing. And people don't know, like, your teeth and your jaw, like, that can create, like, not just headaches and fractures until they get it fixed, but for lifelong that creates there's actually new studies right now with a lot of dental things that can actually be fatal, how it leads to even more things. Anyways, he's dealing with all this pain, and despite dealing with all the pain, his cornermen are just so worried about him. They're up all night with this guy. He gets up in the middle of his pain because he can't sleep because the morphine's not even helping the poor guy, and he's running out and grabbing sofa cushions to make sure his cornermen are comfortable because they stuck by him this whole time. These little stories like that, okay, you don't have to care, I guess. You don't have to cheer for the guy, but these are the things that we are talking about here. And I think if you really, at the end of the day, you cheer for whoever you want. Please, cheer louder. We need more fans. But I think it is important to kind of have a healthy respect for these things. Call me crazy. I know I'm just not your average fan by saying these things, but I stand by him.
Was anyone shitting on him? I didn't know that.
No, I'm just saying this in general. Just the fans thing.
That he lost,
or just in general, like we all do it. Like we retweet stuff, and nothing wrong with cheering, nothing wrong with retweeting things or making gifs or anything like that's a part of the game. You know what I'm saying? But like it's just one of those things that it's that unspoken cost that I don't think a lot of us stop and think about. We're real quick to hit the retweet, right? But we don't think about that story, and that's the only reason why I got dramatic. I didn't mean to take some time and get dramatic with y'all, but it was to prove a point that we're so quick to do something we don't think about the consequences that linger. And even me, like even me, when it's a pick that it's kind of hard. It is my job to break things down. I put so much time. It's kind of hard not to get attached and excited when a pick hits. And I'll tweet, boom, there it goes when a guy gets knocked out, and I call for the guy to get knocked out, boom, there it is. But you'll always see I'm always saying stuff after. I really hope that guy's okay. And that might sound disingenuous. That might sound like that hopes and prayers thing that everybody, gives crap for tweeting these days. But it's something. It's something.
Sound like you wanted to get some stuff off.
Sorry. I'm very passionate. Dan Tom's very passionate. So I wear my heart on my sleeve. So that is let's call that a Stun Gun Monday. There we go.
Dan from Oregon. What's up, Dan? How you doing?
What up, gentlemen? Hey, besides Goes, I don't know if you got there in time. Did anyone catch Joey Davis on the Bellator prelim, kind of very first one that I saw live on Bellator.com? Anyone see this fight? This guy's 2-0 in Bellator. And
No,
he was,
I wasn't able to see it, and I'm so bummed because I was at a Bellator party. So for me to not get there on time was it was disrespectful to my host, Jason Ford, the host of the Bellator party.
Mm-hmm.
It was disrespectful to everybody that came out to watch the Bellator event. It was just disrespectful, and I apologize for that.
Well, tell us about it. I know he got the win. I know he's an undefeated collegiate wrestler, if I'm not mistaken, and he's with Antonio McKee's team, the Body Shop, out there with Pico and AJ McKee Jr. How was the fight?
It was awesome, man. I mean, it's tough as a fan, though. Like, I got to be on Twitter just to see someone throw out a link. Hey, make sure you go to Bellator.com. And so I click on it, and then boom, right away, Joey Davis came out. And then, obviously I'm thinking kind of like Aaron Pico. These guys are wrestlers. But then I'm hearing all this stuff like Pico's got amazing hands. I was like, okay, well, what about this Joey Davis guy that they're not giving any push to? He's still one of those prospects. And he comes out spinning back, kicks him. Joe Rogan would have freaked the hell out, man, with this kick that he threw. Pounced on him, threw a punch, and I think the ref stopped it. But no one's talking about that fight. It wasn't on TV. I haven't heard anyone really mention it. But if you go to Bellator Twitter page right now, they've got that shit. And you can just click on it and see it right now. Or go to, I've retweeted it. And, yeah, so I just want to give Bellator some love there. I kind of want to talk about Jeffrey's call, though, man. And I'll kind of just set the stage. So yesterday, I'm listening to Sirius XM. Luke Thomas comes on. He spends an hour talking about Stipe and Ngannou. And 30 minutes of it was about how Ngannou isn't done yet. Don't write the book off on him yet. And I think what Jeffrey is going on and on about is how the UFC can just, he can say it in the right way, but the UFC can steer these talking points so much, man. I mean, think about it. We come back from Paige losing, and it's all about how she's so tough. Sage Northcutt gets choked out, and it's all about, we shouldn't let him go in and fight with Mono. And now Ngannou, he's not done yet. And he's saying, let's give Stipe his due, man. This guy is amazing. I read a whole page article that someone wrote about him, about just hanging out at the firehouse with him. That shit was fascinating. I loved every minute of it. And they just, maybe the problem is that these guys that are only part-timers, they don't have to do this for financials. They're financially set. I think of DJ and Stipe are very much in the same position. They're the greatest in their division. They're not, quote-unquote, marketable. But you think about half the country are freaking gamers. If you marketed it right, they would love it. And then half the country, I'm sorry, they're not freaking crazy liberal East Coasters, and maybe they want to love a Midwestern guy who comes out there. You can't really understand the guy, but he just whips ass. And so, I don't know, that's just my 2 cents on the whole issue as far as what I heard from Jeffrey and what you guys heard and maybe what his mind might have been. So, back to you guys, man. I'm out.
All right. Well, maybe Jeffrey should call into the show that pissed him off, because it couldn't have been this.
Yeah.
I couldn't have been more clear that I thought Stipe was the greatest champion ever in the UFC and just the greatest heavyweight ever. I picked Stipe in the stat picks, and I bet Stipe in my underdog parlay that hit. So aside from Dan, who's very respectful as an analyst towards both sides, Goes was on Stipe. If you're just calling to sound off, to use a phrase from the MMA Weekly days, I get it.
Yeah.
But if your frustrations come from what you read on Twitter, or go tweet everybody, or tweet the person that you're pissed at, or call into the show to the guy that's disrespecting your fighter. I don't know, but on this show, I don't think we could have been any better with that.
Shoots, yeah.
Heck, I think I made a case for Stipe being the greatest going into the fight, and this would definitely solidify it. So
I think you did too.
I don't know. Commercial? All right. Let's take a commercial. You're listening to MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM Rush 93. Stay close. We'll be right back. I promise you we'll have the UFC light heavyweight champion on at some point in this hour, and it'll be a good one. We'll be right back.
We're on.
Tyler Pittman, shout out to you in the Facebook chat. You also remember John Jones needing to cheat to win. So this was from earlier. Ben Webster, DC is a terrible champion. I liked him until he got the belt. Why is that? Ray Perez, Cupcake, the nice bloodbath. What on earth are they talking about? Erica Mitzelplick says, hi, ninjas.
I think it was
Erica.
her birthday the other day. Happy birthday.
We wished her happy birthday.
We did?
I know I did on Facebook. Martin Stabilo. Aloha, guys. Aloha, Martin. Did you find your Chipotle card?
I think it's in my wallet.
Oh, yeah, okay. John Callaghan. Hi, guys. What's up, John? What's up to Bojan Miocic? Any relation to Stipe Miocic? Valente Villa. What it do, fellas? Hello, Valente.
What it do?
Don Jacobs. Great guy. Great day, guys. Here from Toronto. Hope all is well. All's well here. Stay warm out there. Ray Stratton. DC is the best. I believe he would beat Stipe. I love Stipe too, but I really believe that if DC went to heavyweight, he would win.
Hit the bump.
If it happens inside or outside the octagon, we talk about it here on your home for mixed martial arts, Sirius XM Rush 93 and the Sirius XM app. From cage side to ringside, we're bringing you closer to the action every day on Sirius XM Rush 93 and the Sirius XM app.
Bill First says, where's the real champ John? That's the question. He controls his own destiny.
Clear. I'm going to try DC right now.
And he needs to clear himself of these allegations brought forth against him. And if he can get past that, then all the better.
Hey, Facebook chat, what should I eat after the show? I want to hear what they say.
William Smith. John is champ last time I looked. Kick to the face. Ruthless. He's actually not the champ. But he did kick him to the face. DC would tell you that. Dolo Dinero. He loves DC. Thumbs up. Jerry Boot says Jones is king.
Huh?
Juan Ramirez. Word up, yo. Moyen, Miocic, George, what'd you think of the Stipe fight? It was very tactical. I thought it was pretty good. Even though it was a slow action fight, the fact that Ngannou still retained power early in every round just made you feel like he was still in it. All he had to do was swat at Stipe, and if he caught him, could be lights out. And he did it in the fourth round. He got close, but, you know, toss out 30 seconds of each round, and it really slowed down, and Stipe was just methodically, you know, chipping away at him.
He goes?
Yeah.
I didn't find it boring at all, though. I didn't get the criticisms for that.
Just because it slowed down.
I
Remember
guess,
when he was just behind him, kneeing
Yeah.
him? It's either like take his back or, you know, but Stipe was exhausted as well.
Yeah, he was.
So I think that's where it came from.
Yeah.
Plus, you got two guys. One guy that had 6 straight finishes, 5 KOs,
right.
Ngannou, and the other guy had 4 first-round finishes.
Yeah.
In Stipe, and so I think you just
expected it.
Aside from those stats, you kind of expect the heavyweights to end it early, and so a lot of people wanted to walk out of there feeling like they saw a great knockout.
I was happy to see a bunch of footage on Ngannou. Like, we never usually get to see anything on the guy. I'm like, oh, I get to see more about him, what he likes to do. And
when was the last time Kane fought? It was July of 2016. He ran through Travis Brown. Luis Marino was a Packers fan.
I seen it.
Okay, Danny says he's ready.
Okay, I'm going to get you guys back in because you're coming back in 5, and then I'll call.
Hey, let's go.
They pat down TSA agents because they don't know where those people have been, and because they can. They are Gorgeous George and Goes, and this is MMA Junkie Radio.
SiriusXM Radio is giving our subscribers the chance to win an opportunity to go to Minneapolis, Minnesota for Super Bowl 52. One grand prize winner will receive a trip for 2, including airfare, 3 nights hotel stay, and 2 tickets to Super Bowl 52 on February 4th in Minneapolis, Minnesota. If you're a football fan, this is the ultimate prize. No additional purchase is necessary, and for official rules and to enter, go to SiriusXM.com/Super Bowl. Do that before January 24th, 2018. That's tomorrow. Got one more day for that. You going to enter?
Am I allowed to?
I think. The NFL entities is defined in the official rules have not offered or sponsored the sweepstakes in any way.
I want to.
Danny, can we enter those?
I think he's calling DC right now.
Oh, is he?
That on your. What do you think you'll do first, as far as the big Super Bowls, NHL, NBA? Well, you've done NBA final, right?
Yeah, I've done.
I have no idea if any of us can enter, because normally they say like if you have any connection to the company.
Right. Yeah. If they're going out of the way to talk about entities and shit, then maybe they should have said anybody associated with SiriusXM step off, and they didn't say that. So I may just enter one time.
I have to make a Super Bowl before.
But you know what? I probably wouldn't even go. Honestly, I'd probably like my friend Steve Crocker. He's an Eagles fan, or Jason Straub. I'd probably go. You two want to go or whatever?
Just like that. Just like that.
Well, I mean,
you two guys want to go and leave something on this table before you leave?
Nah, not if I not like
look
that.
at George.
Yeah. All right, let's talk to one of the greatest to ever do it. Works on the Fox Sports desk, calls fights, beats people up 4 times a year. His name's Daniel Cormier. He's the UFC light heavyweight champion. He just defended that belt against Volkan Ozdemir at UFC 220. He joins us now on the hotline. What's up, DC? How you doing?
What's up, boys? How you guys doing?
Good, man. Congrats on your win. Solid night of work.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, man. Thank you so much. It was a good night. It was a really, really good night. Special night.
Yep. But I want to start with something where, because, you know, Goes was keeping me in the loop. We were trying to maybe make it happen yesterday, and we couldn't. And you've been pretty open about this. Let's start with, can you give us an update on how your visit went to the doctor?
Yeah, so I've got like a bone, like a little break in my thumb, and I've also got some ligament damage. So doctor wants to see, I don't like to do surgery, right? So I'm going to try to put off the surgery. I'm going to see in a couple weeks, go back and see what it looks like, if it's starting to heal with the little spur and ligament. And if it's starting to heal, I'm not going to do the surgery to it. I'm going to do some PRP, the PRP again. You know, I'm that guy, man. I prefer to not go under the knife. I would rather just try to always do the alternative so as not to have too much time off. So, yeah, there was a break in there and also a torn ligament in my wrist. So that's why I was having so many issues after the fight, thumb and wrist.
Now, it has nothing to do with, oh my God, if I go under, I may not wake up. It's just because it seems to be a longer layoff for you, or is it what I said?
Yeah, it just takes longer.
Okay.
You know, I want to try to not have surgery. I've had a number of surgeries over the course of my life, and I don't really like it. But also, it's just I don't really have the time to waste. You know, I've been pretty active. You know, I fought. That last fight made 3 fights in the last 9 months. So yeah, I've been pretty active, so maybe try to keep it rolling.
You put that date out that you won't fight past March of 2019. So we've been trying to figure things out over here. We figured a great year would be 3 more fights. A not so great year would be 1 more fight, and what we think the likely scenario is 2 fights. So first of all, start off with how long did the doctor tell you, his best guess, your best guess, that this injury may set you back? When's the soonest you could fight is my question.
Well, the injury will be, if everything goes great, 6 to 8 weeks would be the injury time. So that would be 2 months out, and then a 2-month training camp would be like 4 months. More realistic time frame for another fight would be sometime in the summer.
I like it. International Fight Week.
Maybe July. Yeah, maybe July, International Fight Week, somewhere in that time frame. That would also give me some time to rest and recover from the fight. Just a long, hard year, and also enough time for my injuries to heal. Then that would work, and then obviously that would give me time to maybe fight again at the end of the year, or you know, if I could fight at the end of the year, then maybe sneak another one in around February, March. I can get 3 in before I'm done, 3 more in before I'm done, you know?
There you go, DC fans. I know you're like hearing that. All right, we'll fill in some of those names in just a sec. Let me turn it over to the guys. Dan Tom, what do you have for Daniel Cormier?
Daniel, first of all, great job and fantastic performance this last Saturday, my man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Dan.
Secondly, you know, if maybe a fellow Daniel can help me out here. Part of my duties is to break down fights and make picks, and of course we do our staff picks here at MMA Junkie. Is what me and the boys here are part of, and we've been talking about that. And with your job, it's unique because not only do you have to make picks and kind of be in that, I don't want to go as far as say media role, but you know, analyst role, obviously, but you're also obviously a fighter, a champion, a competitor, a colleague of many of these fighters. You have to share the ring, the back rooms with. How does that work? And you know, being honest, is that one of the lesser favorite parts of your analyst job, is having to make picks with these guys?
1,000,000%. The guys watch and they take offense to it a lot of times. I used to, when I first started doing this, I used to like kind of throw guys under the bus, right? Like I would wait for the show to start, and I would tell the guys as they came on, "Oh, Kenny picked against you." And when I first started hosting UFC Night, I thought it was funny, right? So one day we're on the set, and Kenny goes, "DC, it's not funny." He goes, "Dude, that's not cool." And he was very upset, and I could never understand why he was so upset. It was when I first started hosting the show. And then the longer I stayed on the show, I started to understand why he was upset, because the guys get mad about it. So when he would even start to joke like he was going to do it to me, and I'm like, "Flo, please don't do it," because the guys get upset. Like, we'll be doing these shows, and we have to make our picks. And guys will come from their fights, come up to the desk when we interview them, and they say stuff about it. They're like, "Dude, you picked against me. I can't believe you picked against me." I'm like, "It's just a job, man." It's like, I'm always kind of like, "Hey, if I didn't have to, I would prefer not to." But it happens, you know. And the guys, they do really take offense to it. I'm surprised how many, even in the back, when they're already at the arena, are watching that TV, and when they do those commercial breaks and go to the desk, are paying attention to the picks that we're making. It's insane.
Wow.
Daniel, now...
Many people asked me last week during fight week, they were like, "Who you got in the main event between Ngannou and Stipe?" I'm like, "I'm not doing it. You guys aren't paying me, so I don't have to. I'm not doing it."
Hey, babe, but to be clear, DC, you homer a lot for AKA, so... you know, I mean, it's I don't know. I think fighters need to lighten up a little bit, right? Huh?
That's different, though, right? Like when my guys fight, like any teammates or anything, I'm always gonna pick them. It's unfair, you know. Like even UFC 221, where Rocco's fighting Romero, they asked me to do the color commentary, and I was like, "That's impossible. There's no way I can be unbiased in a Luke Rocco fight," so I had to decline it.
DC, now you've kind of given us a glimpse of when the career will come to an end. I want to talk about a few things that will happen afterwards, and I'm going to share a story with you. Here in the sports book, we like to watch football on Sundays, And I heard a kid talk about the analyst Troy Aikman. And he kept saying the analyst over and over, but never did he ever allude to the fact that the guy's a Super Bowl champion. He had a great college career. Are you prepared to, later on in the future, perhaps this newer generation, maybe forget about Daniel Cormier, the fighter, and maybe them only know you as the analyst or the color commentator? Have you ever thought about that?
I never really thought about it, but you do, like, I mean, I was talking to someone one time, and I don't know who it was, but it was a younger guy, and he didn't know a football player. And it was unbelievable to me to think that someone could not know who this guy was because he was such a big deal when I was growing up. And even the other day, I was talking to one of my coaches, right? And it was my friend, and he was talking to me about the icons of basketball. And I was just explaining to him, I was like, dude, I was like, you have no idea. I was like, Larry Bird was that good. Ain't no damn way. He could not believe. He was like, no. He was like the greatest stars of all time. He goes, when you think basketball, the only thing he was trying to get across was how big Michael Jordan was. And I was like, I get it, dude. I get it. He was like, so you're telling me if I was to ask people on the street about Larry Bird, as many people would know him as Michael Jordan. I said, no. I'm saying Michael Jordan was the greatest most recognized basketball player of all time. But Larry Bird was that level of star. But he could not fathom because he just does not have those memories of Larry Bird actually playing. I was like, dude, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird actually, their rivalry almost reintroduced basketball to the entire country and the entire world. I go, you're taking him for granted because you didn't experience him when he was playing. And I know that when I'm done fighting, people will forget about that. They'll be like, oh, yeah, this guy's pretty, he's a TV guy. And so I know it, which it's just crazy, though, because you can be so great in your time, but if people aren't witnessing it live, they do forget about it. I mean, how can you forget about Larry Bird?
Yeah,
I know. He was a three-time MVP and a
even
three-time
going back to college,
league
the rivalry
MVP.
with Magic. I
I
mean,
know.
there's a lot back there.
He was the man. And, brothers, I watched that one 30 for 30, and they were talking about the black players. The brothers would be like, hey, man, this white dude can't play like that for real, huh? And the black dude that played for the Celtics was just like, just watch. And then Larry Bird would make a fool out of him because they never expected it. And I think just growing up in our community, a lot of those guys just really were fans of Magic and Mike, and they take Larry Bird for granted. It's crazy, man, because he was truly one of the best to ever do it. But yeah, they will forget about me. That's okay.
Daniel,
people talk about Tom Brady, right? You know how much people talk about Tom Brady? He's the GOAT.
Mm-hmm.
We would have never thought anybody would ever consider anybody better than Joe Montana a long time ago. But as time goes by, nobody even talks about Joe Montana anymore.
That's true. Now, look, you're a natural at color commentary, at analyst work. You're really good at that. But what about another job within mixed martial arts? And this is a job that I think you would actually be really good at. But Dana White's job, if that ever came free in the future,
question.
If it ever came free in the future, would you like a job like that? Would you do something like that?
I've never thought about that, man. That's like, Dana, he doesn't get. Dana doesn't get to leave. He is, he's the UFC man. He's the guy that's truly been at the forefront of making this sport what it is today. So I don't even want to think of a day when Dana tries to walk away from this. He don't get to go. He doesn't get to go away. So I've never really thought about it.
What about any bucket list items in your career? Is there anything that's eluded you? A spinning back fist finish, a head kick, that sort of thing, fighting in a certain place, Japan. Is there anything you look back on and go, man, I'm happy where I'm at now, but it sure would have been nice to get one of these?
No, because there's still time. I think now, I tell you one thing that's not happening anymore, and that's Daniel Cormier fighting on the East Coast during the wintertime. Because those weight cuts are freaking brutal. It's so cold that I can barely sweat. So, yeah, that's one thing that's not ever happening again. But in terms of what I need, no, it's not there's not much. I know it may sound cliche, boys, but I'm really, truly just kind of happy with everything right now. Couldn't be better.
Daniel, where do you plan on living when you retire? I know AK is your gym, but when the career is over, will you still live in Northern California, or do you think you might retreat to the South, or would you ever live in Vegas? Like, do you think about what the next step might be post-fighting career?
No, we're going to be in Northern California. My kids have a great school. My wrestling gyms are here. My 2 wrestling gyms are here. My house is here. It's very quiet and really kind of laid back. Like we love Northern California. And the issue is like the only reason we ever have to move to LA was to be around TV. But the only TV I would do in LA is UFC Tonight because all the color commentary stuff is on the road. Mm-hmm. So I can fly to Brooklyn, Vegas from either LA or San Jose, so nothing really has to change. So I think we're going to stay here. I haven't really talked to Selena much about it, but she loves it here, man. My family loves it here, and they like being in Northern California. It's just slow enough. LA is like crazy busy and trafficy.
The reason I ask is the Lakers, the LA Lakers are, when I was growing up, they were really, really good, and these last few years they haven't been. And so as they're trying to attract free agents, these free agents are going to command like $30 million a year or whatever. And it's interesting how the newer generation of athletes is just more financially responsible, and a lot of them are starting to be attracted to states that don't have state income tax. I know California is high, and I know Northern California is also high. The cost of living is high, and that's why I was wondering.
Yeah.
Your TV contracts are going to get fatter, and you maybe got a few more checks coming your way, and so that's more, I guess, what I was thinking.
But we've done in terms of being, responsible financially. I'm a partner in a restaurant chain called Poke OG, one in Anaheim and one in Miami, and they're doing really, really good. I own 2 barbershops down in Southern California that are doing really, really good. So we've got some. I've got 2 wrestling schools in Northern California. So I've done a good job of trying to diversify myself and not really just be tied to the TV, So we've got a lot of different things going that will hopefully help us maintain life after fighting's done.
Where are the barbershops? What cities?
They're both Reseda, down south in the valley.
Yeah.
Reseda, Van Nuys area.
What?
Yeah, and they do really, really well, So
let's give them a plug. What are the names?
I've got a great partner. They're called Faded Barbershops, right? I've got this partner. My wife's sister's boyfriend, L. He just runs it, man. He does everything in regards to the barbershop. I never have to question him. I never have to, he won't even pay the barbershop bills. He pays the bills. He's always like, hey man, I had to fix the floors for $50. So stuff like that. It's like he's just the most trusting guy, One of my best friends in the entire world, and things are going well for us.
Man, that's awesome to hear. Diversification, definitely one of the keys. All right, so now let's get back to, I guess, the forecast. When we had you on about 6 months ago, you said this was before the Jones fight. You said I want to fight Jones, Alex, and then if I have to do Jones again, I don't know, because at the time I think you were hoping to even the score and then do the trilogy. But I like that you forecasted that day. If you had to forecast now, what are the fights that you think you want to knock off? It doesn't matter in what order, but what do you think is probably the 3 you could end your career with and be happy?
So what I've started to do now is I don't know. I don't know who it's going to be. It's going to be whoever it is. I mean,
allow me to give you my wish list.
Give me your wish list, yeah, because my story is about me now. I'm not worried about fighting someone when. It's just going to be whenever I'm ready to fight, I'll fight whoever's next.
My wish list is...
That's it, our wish list.
Stipe. And then Alex Gustafsson. But if Jones solves it all the 3rd time, then Jones on the way out. But believe it or not, Stipe is the one I'm the most into. And remember, we asked you, "Are you scared of damage?" You said no. Are you scared of losing? You said no. And then we said, "Well, why not fight Ngannou and Stipe?" And you weren't really that open to it. But now Dana's saying that he's talking to you, and so I got to ask you again: are you warming up to it? Because your division doesn't have a clear cut. He's hurt. Alex is hurt. And Stipe's doesn't have a clear cut because Fabricio has gone 2-0, but those two fighters weren't really contenders. But, you know, if they gave it to him, I wouldn't be mad. He's a former champion. So I thought we're kind of against the money fights most of the time, but this time it kind of makes sense, and you two would make a lot of money together.
You know, man, Stipe's a fantastic champ. I love it, you know, so I haven't given it much more thought than the last time you guys or anyone have asked me. But, yes, the boss did tell me that it is a possibility. It's something that we would want to consider, you know. So, you know, obviously Kane's working his way back into to fighting, and I've always said that as long as he was fighting in that division now and I could avoid a fight between him and I, that is what I would do. And so with him on his way back, you know, it does limit my involvement in the heavyweight division. So as of right now, we're at the same place we were in before.
Frankly, I'm good
Plus,
with.
you said go fight Stipe.
Yeah.
You actually said go fight Stipe and then go fight Alex.
I know.
If I actually fight at heavyweight, I'd never want to
You're
do
right.
a weight cut again.
You're right.
I'm truly screwing myself.
I would almost say fight Stipe and retire, really. And so because Dana White's so warm to it, say, you know, use that as a negotiation tool and just go, all right, man, I'll do it, but guess what? I need a big bonus just going into the fight and negotiate that.
You're a very smart man, George.
Yeah, I know.
Very smart man.
I am at times. I don't even know how to react to that. I've never been told that, actually.
You know what's crazy, though? Like, just looking at it from Stipe's eyes, there are probably a lot of heavyweights that he's less concerned about than Daniel Cormier. I think he would be
I think so, too.
more concerned with what Daniel brings to the table in a fight than a lot of heavyweights in that pecking order.
Yeah, I think so, too. We another thing we said on the show was, I hate going back to this name because I feel like it's just in the past. He's done what he's done, but the Jones fight obviously was close to $1 million pay-per-view. So I understand it when athletes want to hold out for certain fighters, but the way around it, especially when the organization's warm to it, it's an additional check in addition to my pay-per-views, and hey, you got me. I also believe that beating Stipe, should you get past him, really, really, I mean, because we were talking about top 5 fighters ever, and you were in all of our lists, but to get to the top, beating Stipe would probably erase the first loss to Jones. The second one's a no contest. For many, that might be it right there, DC.
You boys are really. Hey, you boys have got that sales pitch for me going up and fighting for heavyweight, don't you?
Well, you did it. You were 10-0. It's not like we're throwing you to the Lions. You were one of the fucking Lions. You know what I mean? So yeah, but I realize you were an undersized heavyweight, but that's what made it so amazing. That's just, I mean, think about it. When we have most,
so was Tyson.
When we talk to 99% of the athletes, we can only talk about what they want to do in their division. When we talk to the special athletes, the legends, it's what can they do in this division or the one under or the one over, and that makes it fun for us because it's unique.
It is a very unique situation that it's crazy that I was able to go to win 13 fights at heavyweight. So. Yeah, it's crazy. This whole thing has been crazy. I never could have imagined that at this point I would be where I am in terms of not only just the things that I've accomplished in my division, but just things that I've accomplished in the sport and the time that I've spent in the sport. I haven't been doing this all that long. I mean, it's long now, obviously, but from you know, not even 10 years to be considered one of the top 5 guys of all time. That's truly an amazing honor.
I also think at some point a text needs to be sent to Dana that says, "Where are we sitting exactly for the Super Bowl? Because we got to promote these fighters, right?"
I don't want to go to the Super Bowl. Forget this. I'm still not over the St. Susan. I haven't dealt with my own issues. I cannot go and watch another team's joy. I'm still pissed off about that.
Who you rooting for?
And then did you see those freaking Vikings? Did you see the Vikings go lay a freaking egg last night? What kind of shit was that, man? We'd have played better than that. The Vikings went over there. And I always said at some point, Case Keenum has to become who he truly is. You know, like a guy that's been like bouncing around the league. And of course, it happens on the time that they're not playing the Saints. Stupid. Stupid football.
I can't believe when they panned over to Drew Brees, how professional he was in that situation. Because if it were me, I think I would have launched my helmet into the.
Well, one of the guys did. One of the Saints threw his helmet really high because he was mad.
Yeah.
I jumped on the floor. I was fighting, man, and I actually kicked the chair. They had a wooden chair in the room. I kicked the chair because I was so pissed off. And my son just left the room. My boy actually got up and left. I felt so bad for him. I was like, wow, man, why am I getting this kid involved in sports when stuff like this can happen? It was amazing that happened.
Hey, who do you like in the Super Bowl?
Absolutely amazing that happened. The Patriots are going to win again, man.
Who you rooting for?
Every year, dude.
Who you rooting for?
Not rooting for nobody. I wish they could both lose. I don't know. I wish they could both lose, honestly. And at the same time, I wish both teams could lose.
Last question. Are you impressed at all with the Bellator Openweight Grand Prix? You know, a few of those guys are guys that you know very well. And how do you think that one compares to the Strikeforce Openweight Grand Prix? It was a heavyweight Grand Prix from years ago.
It's very impressive. I'm excited. I'm excited, man. I'm happy for Chael. Oh, my God. I called him last night. He texted me telling congratulations. I called him right away. I go, no, bud. I go, after what you did last weekend, I go, man, this warrants a telephone call. So me and Chael talked for 30 minutes, you know, because I'm so happy and proud of him for going out there and getting the job done. And Rampage looked big. The pictures, he looked super in shape.
I know.
And then in the fight, he looked massive. He just looked massive. I was like, wow, this dude's big. And Chael went out there and did his thing, man. I'm so happy for Chael. You know, he deserved to win, and I can't wait to watch Mir and Fedor fight. Mir looks big. How big is Frank Mir right now? And obviously my main man Mo. I want Mo to go out there and really take it to Ryan Bader. I wish they could make that for the title, though. Why can't they just make that inside their tournament for the light heavyweight championship?
I wish, but it'd have to be 5 rounds, additional camp. I don't know. DC, hopefully when you're in Vegas soon, we'd love to have you back in studio. We got to run along, though, because we got to pay the bills and do the commercial. But congratulations on the great win. Amazing post-fight speech. Everything you did was great. You're one of the best to do it, man. It's been a privilege to watch you fight, and I'm glad there's a few more. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, boys. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you, DC. We're going to go to commercial. We'll be right back, and maybe we'll do a little bit of overtime. I don't know, but we got to get to this commercial. We'll be right back. It's MMA Junkie Radio on Sirius XM, Rush 93.
They can drink Mentos-flavored Diet Coke without their stomachs giving a single fuck. They are Gorgeous George and Goes. And this is MMA Junkie Radio.
All right, let's finish up with some calls, maybe a couple minutes of OT. We'll start off with Marco in Waco, Texas. What's up, Marco? How you doing?
Marco from Waco, dilly vatos.
What's up, man?
Hey, Cook interview with DC. You guys were talking about his last 3 fights, man. But I love the fact that you put up a Stipe there. But on this conversation of Stipe being the greatest heavyweight of all time, for him to put him on the greatest fighter of all time, he needs the next 3 fights. Cain Velasquez, of course, DC, and to cap it off, John Jones when he come back in 18 to 24 months.
That would make Stipe the greatest?
Greatest fighter of all time.
Oh, the greatest fighter of all time.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that'd be interesting. All right, good stuff, Marco.
I think you'd probably get it with just 2 of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That would be amazing. He said DC, Cain,
John Jones.
and John Jones. Cain would solidify the heavyweight talk for sure. Well, you'll still have your Fedor people. But that would solidify that. But yeah, by taking out Jones and DC, oof, now you're taking out 2 other top fighters. So, yeah, his only loss out there that would be hanging that he did nothing about is Struve, because he did do something about the JDS one. He avenged it. But unlike GSP, who not only avenged and won a trilogy, he leaves it at that. So you see what I'm saying? That's where you split hairs towards the end. All right, this is a soft exit, Sirius XM audience. More combat sports and entertainment headed your way. The rest of you, head on over to the Facebook or YouTube. We'll do a few minutes of OT there, and that's it. Be champions.
You'll never be the same again. I'm gonna keep on the run. I'm gonna have me somebody. It cost me my very last dime. If I wind up broke, well, I'll always remember that I had a swing in time.
You guys clear for overtime.
All right, Goes, this is the guy that invited you to the Bellator
Excellent
viewing
host.
party, right?
Excellent host.
It's Ford from Las Vegas. What's up, Ford? How you doing?
You motherfuckers.
Ford.
Slandering my good name, and then on top of it, you buried me on my rebuttal in the OT in favor of Marco, and nobody still knows what the fuck he said.
We didn't want to rush you off.
Take your time. Relax. Say what you got to say.
And I've said nothing but good things. I've talked about how good of a host you were.
He said the food was good, the people were cool, you had a big screen, and then you also accommodated the other fans from the other organization. And I mean, what's
if anything, my feelings are a little hurt.
The only thing that's ironic is this whole time you've been doing this ruse where you dislike Bellator, and now we get it. He was just fooling about. But other than that, tell us what's wrong.
No, not at all. This is fake news, George. This is fake news.
Oh. The proof's in the pudding. Instagram.com/the goes. It's right there. I'm staring at a Bellator viewing party.
Yeah, the Goes needs to go and get a part-time job with CNN with that bullshit. Okay, because we switched it over for one fight because Carla asked, and I'm a good host, but otherwise that was a UFC party, sir. That was a UFC party.
Are there other pictures that show the UFC fights on the big screen?
Awesome.
That would definitely help your case.
I will produce evidence.
Okay.
But I can tell you, on top of all that, though, I was in complete misery the entire time that we had to have Bellator on TV. It was a shit card. It was just trash from top to bottom. I had to drink more.
I heard from some people that they showed up. They thought it was going to be a UFC party, and it wasn't. They kept insisting on Bellator on the big screen so much that the cops wound up showing up. Answer me this: did the cops go to your house? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, that supports the story of what I'm saying. That even cops had to come in because there was beef amongst junkies or whatever. So, and that's 2 strikes.
And I was telling those people, I go, like, don't be an asshole. He invited you to a Bellator party. Yeah, it'd be nice to have both on, but you don't have to call the cops or nothing like that. And like I said, Jason Ford, excellent host. I don't know why those people lost their minds.
Well, I appreciate that, but I talked to my son, and he had told me the reason why he actually called the cops was because Bellator was on the big screen for one fight, and he was very upset about that. I'm raising him right,
the story that I heard was that Jason Ford's son was watching, the Bellator viewing party, all the fights, Goes, you provided us with the McDonald Lima fight, right?
Mhm.
Well, apparently it was the main event as well, because that's what you do. You show the co-main, the main, when you're hosting a Bellator viewing party. And Jason's kid heard Shale go, doesn't matter if it's 2-on-1, 3-on-1, 5-on-1, one way or another, you're going to call 911. And so Jason or someone may have called 911. That's why the cops came. But it all had to do with Shale's input on
I
the viewing
wasn't even
party.
too sure because I was off in the corner signing the "We Will Miss You, Jimmy Smith" banner, so I missed that part. But that sounds like something that could have happened.
Oh my God! Fuck you guys. I'll catch you on the next one, man.
All right, we'll see you later.
Easy, Ford.
Well, that was a fun overtime, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
I think that's the only thing Ford could do at this point was we had bazookas and he had a 9mm. It's like, ooh, it's a standoff, you know.
Mhm.
You just go, I'll be right back. I think that's good for today. He's got an appointment. We have to do a little bit more post-production work, so we're gonna bounce on out of here. Tomorrow we will have Jess Clark, UFC flyweight in studio.
Cool.
Yeah, she'll be here in studio with us. She'll be our co-host for the day, and we'll probably have a couple more guests, you know, so she'll help us interview those guests. A few of them are going to be flying to Brazil soon. And, yeah, that'll be basically halfway through the week. So lots more to cover. Probably still some more UFC 220 talk, Bellator 192, whatever. But, of course, this week is UFC on Fox 27, headlined by Derek Brunson and Ronaldo Jacare Souza, Andre Fili, Dennis Bermudez on the co-main event. So fights to talk about there. Hopefully some money to be made. I really like I've been hot on the parlays. So I'm going to go up there and ask for the current odds and start circling, see if Dan Tom approves, see if Goes approves. Maybe back those up a little bit. Anyway, for Danny and Dan and Goes, I'm George. Hopefully you enjoyed today's show. Share it, please. Tell your friends about it. Retweet, whatever. It really, really does help the show out. We don't really ask that much, but we're going to start asking a little bit more. We're out of here. Be champions.